Welcome to SAM Conversation, a program of South Asia Monitor. It is a pleasure to welcome Major General Rajiv Narayanan, former Additional Director General Military Operations, visiting fellow Center for Land Warfare Studies, and now a professor of practice at Aerospace Engineering Department, Indian Institute of Technology, Madras. Welcome, General Narayanan. It's also a pleasure he represents 2 regiments of the Armored Corps, Pune Horse, and the 16th Cavalry. But what we are going to hear from him is an elaboration of what transpired from the 7th of May till 11th at least. And of course, the after effects of which have not yet stopped. Following the horrendous 22nd April 2025 attack on innocent Indian tourists, including one Nepali, another Poniona, all males by Pakistani terrorists in a most cold-blooded manner after making them strip to ascertain their religion, that they are Hindu. And the reaction all over India was unprecedentedly of not just shock, but overwhelming anger too. We remember seeing many visuals of Prime Minister Narendra Modi with the 3 ministers, Home Minister, Mr. Shah, the Defense Minister, Mr. Rajnath Singh, and External Affairs Minister, Mr. Jaishankar, and the Chief of Defense Staff, the 3 service chiefs, and the National Security Advisor, Mr. Ajit Doval. And I think we don't know how many sittings they had. I think go over about 30 to 40. But what emerged as the very, very emotionally named Operation Sindoor began is worth knowing. And when I say worth knowing, the knowing of it was not easy. It came with a lot of fake news, propaganda, and what have you. It is indeed heartening. It was heartening to hear Major General Rajiv Narayanan, come out with a number of very interesting details about Operation Sindoor. The first question I have, that is the figure of aircraft, air bases destroyed. It was 11, but of late, since I think yesterday, the Defense Minister, Mr. Rajnath Singh, has been quoting the figure 13. Anyway, if it's 13, well, I'll say all the better. That's the first question. If you briefly throw some light on it, please.
Yes, because he's not wrong when he says we have addressed 13 bases. On the, I would say, 8th, 9th night, we had targeted 2 bases. Apart from targeting the places from where the drones were being flown and the UAVs being flown, 2 bases were targeted. And on the night of 9th, 10th was when the massive attacks went on 11 bases. So 11 into 13. People tend to forget that apart from this 11, there were attacks earlier also. Those attacks were essentially the attacks on, I would say, 8th, 9th, 7th, 8th, and 8th, 9th were meant to create holes in his air defense network. So along with that, on 8th, 9th night, you had addressed 2 air bases. Then after that, since the air defense had been suppressed to a large extent, you had jammed and then you went all over.
Um, how effective was the Indian aerial offensive?
Very effective, sir. There was a lot of information warfare and fake news. 5 Rafales down, 2 Rafales down, this happened, they also attacked. But while New York Times put something else in their headlines, when you read the full report, Indian attacks were supported by open source satellite imagery of the extent of damage that had been done, precise damage with precision, which what I found was about a meter or less was the circular error of probability using NavNavik. Pak was PowerPoint.
NavNavik is India's.
India's IRNSS. What Pak was
If you may
telling that we have
if you
done
may
was all
please
PowerPoint.
just elaborate the words for our
Navigation Indian Complex. It is NavNavik, and it is based on Indian Regional Navigation Satellite System, IRNSS. The tight footprint of, though the claim is less than 20 meters, it is 1 meter, which was found, is in the Indo-Pacific regions. And the footprint beyond that, which gives around 20 meters or little more, covers the whole of Asia and portions of complete Mediterranean and some portions of Europe. And it was in the rationale for creating this IRNSS came about during the Kargil War, where the Americans denied us the use of GPS. So complete what was done when Israel gave us those spikes to convert the dumb bombs into precision. The precision was given through GLONASS and INS. There was no GPS. That was when it was felt that we need to have our own. It took a while, and the initial briefing started in 2013. I was in chair at that time, and it carried on. And today it has reached where it is. We used to have almost every quarter a meeting with ISRO, Deputy NSA, Army, Navy, Air Force. We used to all sit together. Even DRDO was there. And you can see what it has produced. Every airbase was targeted. Apart from that, there were some cantonments also targeted where his the land-based nuclear assets were, the missiles. So, which are essentially Gujranwala and Sargodha that were targeted. Apart from Sargodha airfield, you targeted the garrison where his missile was located, telling him that we know where you are. So he has 5. We didn't target Pano Akil, Khuzdar, Arko. Air bases where he has air assets, which is basically Mirage 3 and 5 and JF-17 and F-16 if the Americans permit them. These are based in Kamra, Rafiki, Jacobabad and Masroor. So Rafiki, Jacobabad and Masroor were targeted. Then his strategic reserve for his nuclear assets are kept in Kirana and Chagai Hills. Kirana is next to Sargodha and Chagai is next to Jacobabad. The government will not say it because you didn't target the nuclear warheads per se. So they're deep underground in tunnels.
But if I may please just, if the government may not have said it, but am I right in saying that very sort of subtly it has got accepted?
Yes.
Or,
The smile tells everything. And the Pakistanis openly said that they just hit the hill. Precisely. Because that's where the entry exit points are. If you cannot hit the tunnel, the best is to destroy the entry and exit point. And that's what we did.
Chagai.
Both in Chagai and Kirana. There appears to have been some nuclear cook-off inside, radiological cook-off, not a nuclear explosion. Chagai, this was between about 1:44 and 2 a.m. on early morning on 10th. Now, the American National Seismic Center registered a seismic activity equivalent to 5.7 on the Richter scale at Chagai and 4.4 in Kirana, and later during the day of the 10th, another 4 in Kirana. A 5.7 must have collapsed the entrances completely and sealed that inside. So there was no leakage that was mentioned, which came out from Chagai Hills area, but there were reports of leakage from Kirana. I'm not
Kirana.
talking of the fake letter which was in circulation. You see, just to kill a narrative, you pull out a fake sort of a letter and then kill the narrative that letter is fake. No, it's not the letter. In X, I received videos from the ground where you couldn't see who was talking, but the villagers were being asked to move out from the villages next to Kirana. And the voice is telling there is radiation here, and the villager is asking, what is radiation? He doesn't know. He doesn't
This,
understand.
no, if I'm not mistaken, at Chagai, there's a bus stand where it says bum factory. Bum factory.
Maybe so. But that is also their test site. Chagai is also their test site.
Also the test site. You're right. You're right.
Now, and it's in Balochistan. Now, in Kirana, these people were told, "Nahi, there is some problem. You will have issues. So you come away. We will sort that problem out and you can come back." That is what I got. And of course, the American power and energy aircraft, which they claim that no, we gave it to Pakistan. Well, if they gave it to Pakistan, it didn't fly from Pakistan. It flew from Central Command. So if it was given to Pakistan, how was it in Central Command? It flew over these areas and landed at Rawalpindi. Then there is an Egypt Air aircraft which flew towards China and then entered Pakistan via China and landed at Rawalpindi. It was told that it is carrying boron from the Nile Delta. Now, when you have a radiological event, the maximum threat is from neutron release, not from alpha, beta, and gamma. Ideal absorbent for neutron is boron. So you can make a shield by impregnating it in polyurethane or polycarbonate and then placing it there. Now, the next people who say, no, it didn't happen, they claim that IAEA mentioned there is no leak. I would say, just excuse me, IAEA doesn't look at military sites. The only site they are responsible for is civilian.
Atomic energy.
Yes,
Atomic
the civilian
energy.
sites.
Which
Now,
is
even
which
if he has
doesn't fully
made the
cover.
statement, firstly, they made it 3 days late. Secondly, they have to answer the question, what we're doing in a military site. You're not supposed to oversee the military site. So what are you talking about a military site? Kirana Hills or Chagai is not a military, is not a civil site. Civil sites we know are Kauta and Karachi. You should have been there. So there is no nuclear leak from there. Of course, there is no nuclear leak from there. If there is there was a radiation leak, I'm sure by 3 days they would have contained it using boron. And then when you make a statement, no, there is no nuclear leak, yes. Then we come to that same point which you were saying that people would not state. It becomes a little, I would say, a diplomatic issue to say I targeted a nuclear facility. So he's right when Air Marshal Bharti says that it didn't target any nuclear sites. Of course, you didn't. You hit the entrances. The entrance to a tunnel has nothing to do with the nuclear site, where the nuclear warheads are way below the surface in tunnels.
And here, if I may please just intervene, when we say that we are, trying to disable airports so that, that our aim is to ensure that their aircraft can't take off. That's the least.
So now the other issue about their Air Forces, they were so scared of the S-400 after day one, they never came closer than about 100, 120 kilometers from the border.
Ah, ah.
Now let us come to the claims
No,
that
what I meant is that, is it, one hasn't gone into, where exactly, or how nuclear weapons should be kept, but are they kept, sort of in airports, or air
not
bases?
exactly in the airport, sir. Now let us say like Gujranwala, Sargodha, Pano, Akil, Arco, and Khuzdar are their
Hmm.
known land bases from where they fire their missiles. So somewhere close by, in an underground tunnel shelter, they would have kept the nuclear warheads for immediate to be able to mate it immediately. He's not going to wait for it to come from Kirana
Quite right.
or
Yes, yes,
same is
yes.
the case with the air bases. The four air bases, that is Kamra, Rafiki, Jacobabad, and Masroor, somewhere close by, he would have created that underground facility where we would have kept the nuclear warheads so that it can be mated to the missiles which are being fired from air. So that would be close by. But when you target them precisely, their command and control center and facilities, you're telling, buddy, I know where you are. So be careful. And the precision of targeting would have scared. Okay, so basically, like we spoke about IAEA, sir, IAEA essentially oversees civilian nuclear facilities. It has no role to play at all on any military facility. For them coming to make a statement after 3 days itself is surprising, for which they should answer. Why did they make a statement on a nuclear facility? That is point number one. Point number two, they came after 3 days. What were they doing on the morning of 10th? When there were so much reporting going on from Pakistan on the ground that they have this problem. So uh, maybe the people on with boron, they had been able to control the leak, and then thereafter you say that there is nothing. Now, what scared Pakistan further? Noor Khan Air Base is the nuclear command and control operational center, which is where
Ah,
Asim Munir had run away into the moment the air attack started. You destroyed that. Yes, today morning, the PM has confirmed that their Sipah Salar rang up that BrahMos missile has hit them.
has it?
Okay, so one by one, things are coming out, and that is when they got so scared that they ran. What the Chinese are angry at, they ran to the Americans,
Ah,
requesting to talk to India. And finally, the DGMO spoke to our DGMO, and we said five. And we never used the word ceasefire. It was stopping of firing and stopping all air, ground, and naval act hostilities. And that was to be reviewed on 12th.
which amounts
And
to a break, literally.
or like we call it as a tactical pause,
That, yeah,
because you didn't trust them. And sure enough, Trump went to town saying I had got done the ceasefire, and they said it at 5, and by 7 o'clock they had started with the drone attacks again.
yes, yes.
Now the air defense system became very, very, very effective. Only two, I would say, 80% of the equipment which was used, more than 80%, all Indian origin. The air defense command and control and communication systems completely
Indian
homegrown.
origin, and you can use the term Atmanirbhar. Uh,
Atmanirbhar. Then air defense command and control system, everything Atmanirbhar, nothing from outside, all hardware, software, everything from inside.
great, great.
Then all the legacy systems, like they had the Pichora, Usa AK, our own L-70 guns, the Zeus towed twin guns, and the Shilka quads, that is 4-barreled 23 all upgraded, modernized, and made uh, radar connected. Shilka was already radar connected. L-70 and Zeus were optical. The operator sees it. Again, controlled by radar, AI enabled, and you knocked that off. You didn't need to use S4, like people were talking S-400 dropped drones. Excuse me. S-400 dropped their missiles. It is these legacy systems upgraded and mostly the guns which dropped the drones. $500 versus $20,000.
Yeah. So it was
It's
some
just the
guns and
cost
some
of the
jamming
bullets.
also. Some jamming also.
Yes, I'm coming to that.
Yeah, sorry.
Now you also used, this is kinetic. You also used completely all the anti-drone systems, kinetic, non-kinetic, which were there are homegrown. Kinetic in the sense laser, non-kinetic is getting hold of them, their communication systems, jamming them. And most of these drones, which reports are coming out, were so useless that moment you jam them, it just circled and fell down there. That now compare that to the Iron Dome. We are using missiles, costly missiles, to knock off these drones. You didn't waste in that. In the first day itself, they lost two JF-17s, which they were trying to pass off as Rafales, one in Akhnur, one outside Bhatinda. Uh, on the seventh evening in the briefing, the DGISPR accepted for the loss of two F-17s that day.
And just imagine, we had a whole lot of foreign agencies and ironically Indian agencies, media
Yes,
agencies also, who are, readily carrying on with this fake news, propaganda, lies. Well, that it changed because the very
but
same. Uh,
people should have seen the Sky TV. The defense minister was waffling on Sky TV when the lady anchor asked him that you're saying so many down, so many down. What is your proof? Can you believe it? Laughable. He says proof is social media. Defense minister saying social media. And it is laughable. And yes, people, the West was also very anti the Rafale because you are going in for more Rafale. And
yes,
they were
yes.
worried that they will lose the arms market. So the arms lobby of the West was also in place. The arms lobby of the Chinese were also in place. Initially, people were saying there is some truth in it because the share prices have gone down. But then, as the truth came out, Dassault aviation prices started going up, and the Chinese aviation prices started collapsing.
Going, yes, yes, yes.
So
And
the air operation was so effective that it really scared them. And that is why the PM has openly said no, so that the nuclear bluff won't work.
you know, one has been writing so often that we need to do much more when we are fighting this disproportionate battle of, a few terrorists, four or five, or three or four or five come, and almost a battalion gets, deployed or activated to. We did some, in 2016, what we call the surgical strikes. They were very, very well coordinated, very well implemented, and so was that airstrike in 2019 at Balakot. This time, I think what we did was the equivalent of counting that now there are 13, 13 air bases, 22 Balakots. It's like doing.
Yes, sir. If I may, sir, by 2016 and 2019, we hadn't stitched together all these things in place that we have today. I'm not saying it is complete. Yes, I'm sure they would have looking at the lessons learned and what gaps they are and what more to uh, improve upon. But this time you had the potency and the capability to tell the West there is nothing called strategic restraint now.
No,
And
no,
that
that
has,
restraint was ridiculous. That
yes,
restraint was ridiculous. We had acts of war, in hundreds, thousands in the last
so
30
many.
years.
But now the whole analogy has changed. Everything has
Yes,
changed.
yes, yes, no, no.
And suddenly, what has happened is like you also know, so there are three levels of war. There is subconventional, conventional, and when your nuclear powers fighting, then you go nuclear. Pakistan was always looking to shift the envelope of the subconventional upward through nuclear blackmail, so that the window of convention is very less, because he always knew that he couldn't take you on in conventional. And with the nuclear saber rattling, when you went conventional, that the world would get after you to come for a ceasefire. And he can go tom-tomming around the world that I have achieved a stalemate, so I have won. But unfortunately, of late, what has happened, sir, they have shifted towards the Quranic concept of war. Now, in that, even a physical defeat is not considered a defeat if the ideological still stays. The ideology is still there, then you take it as a victory that our ideology still remains. So you have been defeated thoroughly, but the ideology is still there. So you say that I have won because my ideology has not been defeated.
You've not killed my ideology, so I've won.
I have won. And that
Great,
is what
sir.
is going on. And
Yes, yes.
slowly, they are also telling, and people, I'm getting the videos from across, where they say that everything is gone. What are they celebrating for? And one of the videos was quite shocking, which underlies what the Prime Minister had said, that there is no difference between state and non-state actors. In Muridke, this was a shot from Muridke, where that training center in the masjid was hit. Right next to that is an administrative block, and it says Government of Pakistan Administrative Block.
Huh.
And this is within the complex of the LET in Muridke.
The Lashkar
How can you
Tayyiba.
say that the government is different and the terrorist is different? We saw that in the photograph when Asad Rauf is standing for the janaza prayers for all those people who had died. You had a lieutenant general and other army officers standing behind. A proscribed terrorist is leading the prayers, and all their coffins were covered with Pakistan's flag.
Flag. Yeah.
Can it be more telling? The
No,
number
that
two.
even Musharraf in his time, there are visual records of his doing the same.
Yes. Now, the number two, who's the DGISPR? He's the son of a proscribed terrorist. He tried to sell, he was affiliated with Obama, and he was wanting to sell nuclear technology to him. He was part of the Pakistan nuclear atomic energy facilities. Proscribed terrorists, not just proscribed by UN, US, UK, and others also, even Pakistan has proscribed him. Now, his son is a lieutenant general as DGISPR.
Great.
So it is just the change of dress, otherwise the people are the same. One is in uniform, one is in Pathan suit.
No, it's for Kargil, they raised the 13, I think, at least 13 battalions of the Northern Light Infantry, which were all of essentially non-Sunnis. There were some Sunnis, but very few. And Shias and all, tribes of the Baltistan, that region, which were ideal as cannon fodder and were treated as cannon fodder.
Their bodies, sir. I was operating in the Dras sector. 16 Cav was there. We were providing the firm base for the attacks on Tololing and Tiger Hill. They didn't accept the bodies.
They didn't accept the bodies. And later on, when bodies did get accepted, their last rites were done in darkness.
Kya bolo, sir?
Yeah, anyway. Would you like to anything that you think you may have missed out in in the backup of Indian things, like would you like to mention ISRO?
Sir, the complete NavNavik is based on ISRO.
ISRO, yeah.
10 satellites. 10 satellites are still there, up there. And that is how it is. So the world is worried because they all accept the US and the West that the two most effective space agencies is one is NASA, the other is ISRO. NASA has a whole lot of Indian scientists working there. ISRO has no Americans working here. So they are
Well,
worried if those Indians move out of NASA and come into ISRO, NASA will
anyway,
collapse.
Maj. Gen. Narayanan, thank you. Very well brought out. Very well brought out. And thank you.
Thank you, sir.
We little strapped for time, otherwise, but there's enough that you've given us to feel proud. Thank you.
Thank you,
Jai
sir.
Hind.
Jai Hind, sir.